quick one, but it's an essential one. Make sure to bring their pillow and blanket. Why? Because they need a sense of home away from home, and it's the easiest thing. It also keeps them warm. It keeps their head propped up. It's just essential. Just do it. I know it can be a little bit taxing, especially with blankets and a pillow, trying to travel with those type of things. But every time I've gone on a pilgrimage with my kids, I've taken them and I've never regretted it. The next tip is do not forget to teach your children before you head out. Tell them where you're going. Open up Google Maps, show them where it is, show them pictures of the church ahead of time, or the saint. You know, when we went to go see Saint Padre Pio, my wife found a cartoon Padre Pio video on YouTube and showed it to my girls before we went up there, so they kind of had an idea of who this man was, this amazing saint and priest. So whatever age your kids are, plan accordingly for their intellectual formation, so maybe hopefully they can appreciate that pilgrimage site or that saint that you're going to see even before you get there, when you get there, while you're on pilgrimage, and then afterwards, talk with them, see what they got out of it, see what they thought of the church or the shrine or wherever, and really open that up. Okay, here's a big one. Set your expectations realistically. Basically what I'm trying to say is don't be idealistic. Don't set your expectations through the roof. Because, let me share with you a quick story. Becky and I, as I said, we took our 2 daughters to World Youth Day. Before we got to Poland, we had a few days in Rome. And we also went to Assisi. And when we went to Assisi, we were going to go to St. Clair and go to see her body. Now, my oldest daughter is named Claire. My wife's patroness is St. Clair. Now, my wife and I both have been to Assisi, been to St. Clair before. It's beautiful. So we were just over the moon, thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be so amazing having our 2-year-old daughter be able to touch the glass and see her saint name, and it's going to be so beautiful. Not quite. While we're waiting in line, which was a really long line, it was miserably hot. My wife, who just had the baby at 6 weeks, has the carrier. She's sweating, I'm sweating, and then on top of it all, the 6-week-old starts crying. And not just like fussy, I'm talking wailing. And then as we're getting closer, my 2-year-old is complaining and crying because she's been in line for so long. And so by the time we get to see St. Clair, basically my whole family, they're in tears. And I'm going, well, that sucked. But it didn't. Why? Because the purpose of it, which I'll talk about again at the end of this video, is not about what my expectations are. It's what's God's expectations. And it was my fault for trying to think that this is going to be some dreamy thing instead of being realistic, like, hey, you're a father, your husband, things are going to happen. Now, I will say, parents, you got to do what you got to do. Right? So when we were going to see St. Padre Pio, again, we were waiting in line. My newest daughter, who's only 4 weeks, began to fuss because she just woke up. She's starting to get hungry. And, at first there's that tension, like, oh no, she's going to start crying and people are going to be, all upset with us. But then we also realized, like, well, you know what? She's a baby. That's what babies do. That's what kids do. All right? So that doesn't mean we just say, whatever. But we also have to realize that kids will be kids. And they only have so much of an intellectual understanding of what's taking place. We do our best. That's what parents do. We love them. And if anyone else has a problem with it, they can offer it up. Another thing that my wife wanted to bring up was mothers that are breastfeeding while on pilgrimage or while traveling. Do what you gotta do. I asked my wife, how do we handle this? And with our first one, when we did a pilgrimage, she was only, I think, maybe 2 months. We were in the car, we're going to New Orleans and EWTN and all this stuff, Florida. And my wife, she would pump and she'd be in the back seat. So she would be privacy, she would pump her breast milk and then put it in the bottle. And then we would be able to feed her while we were driving. Now, obviously, if you don't have that luxury of being able to pump, again, do what you got to do. Whether that means you got to stop, feed the baby, or take other measures, I'll just leave it at that. Not going to go into it, but just know that you need to do what you need to do to take care of your family and take care of your children. All right, the penultimate tip is pray, pray, pray. Pray before you go, pray during, especially during, and then even afterwards, pray. If you know ahead of time, maybe try to do a novena, especially if you're gonna go visit a saint, do a novena. If you're gonna visit a shrine for Our Lady, offer up a Marian devotion, do the total consecration if you know way ahead of time. Just pray, pray, pray. It's so beautiful. It's so great when you can incorporate prayer time on the pilgrimage. One of my favorite things this past week when I went with my middle daughter, we were really praying a lot, and she got into the habit of praying so much that every time I would give her a snack in the back of the car, she'd be like, "Dad, do I need to pray for this?" I'm like, no, honey, that's a granola bar. You don't need to pray before meals for that. But I did tell her, I'm like, but we should pray always. So maybe you can just say, "God, thank you so much for this snack." And the first time she's like, "No, I'm okay." Like, whatever. But then later on, I think it was either that day or the next day, I hand her, some snack behind me. She goes, "God, thank you for this snack. Amen." And she ate it. And it was just like, oh, that's so sweet. So pray, pray, pray. Go to the sacraments. If you can go to confession, definitely try to go to Mass every day as a family on pilgrimage. You won't regret it. The final thing, enjoy the pilgrimage. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy it, because these pilgrimages are so much better than vacations. Why? Well, because a vacation's all about yourself. It's all about me. How can I relax? How can I get these kids to quiet down so daddy can take some time off? Whereas a pilgrimage is all about Jesus Christ. And it's all about those little sacrifices every day that leads us to that moment to be able to offer it back to Jesus. It's our moment to renew our sense in prayer throughout the time, to visit these beautiful places, these shrines, these saints, these basilicas, etc., and offer it back to Jesus Christ. It helps our children direct their lives to Jesus Christ. It may awaken their vocation without us even realizing it, but it's all pointed to Him instead of ourselves. It's being selfless instead of selfish. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have fun and treat yourself. Please do. In fact, one of my favorite pictures of all time is when we were in Assisi, and even though we were offering all these things up, we made sure to stop and get some gelato. We got some ice cream. My children love treats here and there, so please feel free to treat yourself. And a bonus, because we're always coming up with more, a bonus one is take some pictures if you can, or find someone that can take pictures, just a couple here and there. I know for my children, they love seeing pictures of themselves, even if they're really small. If you're thinking, well, they'll never remember this, you're right, they probably won't remember it, but they will want to see pictures of themselves at that place. And you can tell them, like, yeah, we took you here, we took you there, we prayed at this place, we celebrated Mass over here, we got to see this saint. And they're enthralled. They're like, whoa, that is so cool. Another thing you can do is, if they have a religious gift shop, go visit that gift shop and buy like a small trinket. So for example, one of the things we did was buy this statue. My middle daughter and I went to the Our Lady of Victory Basilica. And so again, video coming very soon on that. And I made sure to buy this statue. Why? Because it helps remind me, but it would also remind my daughter and remind our family of the pilgrimage that we got to experience. So that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a question down below if you have anything. I will do my best to answer. If you have taken your family, or you've been on a pilgrimage with families, let me know if there's something that I didn't mention that you saw and you're like, hey, this is what we did, or hey, this is what I saw that they did. I think it's pretty awesome. I want to hear it. Leave it down below in the comments. I'll try, like I said, soonish on the next family pilgrimage to shoot a video on how to pack as a family, because that's kind of a little bit totally different than just yourself. And also stay tuned. I will be posting those videos of our pilgrimage up to New York, Buffalo, Montreal, and all sorts of places, and Padre Pio in Oklahoma City. So plenty of stuff coming down the pipeline. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. God bless. So that will do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, if you've ever taken a family, well, I can't talk.